Whittaker versus Costa is one of the more exciting fights we've had in a little while. Everyone loves Robert Whittaker. He's a really exciting fighter. He's coming off a loss in his last one. And then you have Costa, who also fought a lot of the same opponents as Whittaker. So let's just quickly run through both of these guys' careers and let's break down who's going to win the fight. Starting with Robert Whittaker. He had 11 professional fights before the UFC, and he won 5 of them by submission. But in 20 UFC fights, he's never won a single fight by submission. So he's not going to win this one by submission. If you watch his early career from back when he won whatever version of The Ultimate Fighter he was on, I don't know what it was, Latin America, I don't know what it was. He looked very plodding and slow compared to the guy who we know today, who has bounciness, speed, light-footedness, goes back and forth nimbly and sprints in and out. Very quick for 185. We know about his struggles at 170. He lost a couple fights in a row to Court McGee and Stephen Thompson. But at 185, he won 9 fights in a row, including where he left-hooked Brad Tavares. And he had a wild 4 minutes of fighting against Derek Brunson, where Brunson tried taking him down, but then couldn't, so he settled for winging punches. But Whittaker was faster, more durable, sharper, and more technical, whereas Brunson has a horrible habit of leaning his head way too far forward when he's on offense with that wrestling style, so he sticks his head out to be hit, and Whittaker made him pay by catching him with all kinds of shots, including the left hand into the right high kick, which set up the finishing ground and pound. And Whittaker has a lot of other weapons. He always stands with his low left hand. It typically doesn't cover his face at all, which he developed over time. If you watch back his first fight, he actually kept that hand higher up, more like a regular fighter, but throughout his career, it just kept dropping lower and lower and lower as he got more comfortable with that. He uses that low left hand for a quick jab, and he also uses it to set up the running in uppercut, shifting uppercut. But he also throws the uppercut well with his right hand. Right, he's an orthodox fighter, but he uses both uppercuts really well. Quick jab. Also has a quick left hook, which he can use sliding away or stand alone or catch you mid-exchange. He has a front kick up the middle, and of course his most dangerous weapon is the right high kick, which he can also throw in the middle of an exchange, right? Sometimes he likes to throw the 1-2 and then use the right kick. Sometimes he just likes to do left uppercut into right high kick. Sometimes jab into right high kick. And the right high kick is what finished off Jacare in his fight. That was how he set up the ground and pound. He hit him with a couple of those high kicks with the right foot. Whittaker really made a career of fighting marauders in the UFC, right? Like he fought Brunson, Jacare, Romero, and he used his speed and quickness and athleticism, which set the difference between him and his opponents. In his first fight against Romero, right, they fought 2 times. The first time was for the vacant title, and then the second time was for, well, it was an interim title, which I guess means the title was sort of vacant. And in the second fight, it was for, Romero was challenging Whittaker for the interim title, which Whittaker won the previous fight. But in the first fight, Romero was trying to take Whittaker down early, but he couldn't. And Whittaker was crisper on the feet. He used the left hook, also threw the right hook, front kick, uppercuts, and of course, his best weapon, the right high kick. Romero caught him with a low kick in round 1, which seemed to hurt Whittaker's leg. And this famously started Whittaker with Whittaker's quest for bringing in a side kick to the knee, because that was kind of what Romero used against him. So Whittaker hurt his leg in round 1. I'm saying Whittaker hurt his own leg. Romero hurt Whittaker's leg in round 1. And in round 2, Whittaker rushed in and Romero took him down. Whittaker did better in round 3, and he also started using his elbows at one point. He threw a lot of front kicks. This was a theme of Whittaker's fights against Romero, where Whittaker needed to create space. He needed to keep a distance between him and Romero because you can't just go to war in close with Romero. So Whittaker used a lot of front kicks. Whittaker went southpaw for a second in that fight, It was really the only time I've ever seen him do that. And he threw a 1-2 and then switched back to orthodox. In round 4, Romero again struggled taking Whittaker down, but Whittaker scrambled up and landed punches, including a jab, a left uppercut. And when Romero expected the jab, Whittaker landed a step-up knee. When both fighters were exhausted in the 5th round, Whittaker spammed the front kick to make sure that Romero couldn't get close enough to land anything, and that made Romero use a lot of useless energy. One of the things Romero was famous for was he would constantly wave his hands, making X's in front of his face, and he had a lot of strange hand movement. But with Whittaker using that front kick to keep Romero away, Romero was just stuck waving his hands and using a lot of energy for no reason. Whittaker went southpaw again for a second in round 5. He countered Romero with a step-in elbow that knocked Romero down, and then he landed elbow ground and pound, slicing him open. So that was how Whittaker won the first fight against Romero. The rematch was another crazy fight, where Whittaker took the slide-in push kick to the knee from Romero. He learned it from him, and he tried to get revenge, and he threw a million of those kicks in the beginning of the fight, which makes a lot of sense, because where in the first fight, Whittaker was keeping the distance using the front kick, now he got this other weapon from Romero, which is this push kick to the knee. He threw, at one point, a triple jab and the leg kick. He landed a right hook, jab, 1-2, left hook, and he also landed a left body kick, which was something that Whittaker hadn't really thrown up to this point. He's famous for the right high kick, and then he can occasionally bring it down to the body, but he's not really famous for the left kick. Whittaker was also checking the kicks that Romero threw. Whittaker also started throwing the right hand to the body, which was another unusual punch for him, while Romero tried a couple of spinning back fists that didn't connect. In round 2, Whittaker went back to the right overhand, jab to the body, which is another unusual choice for him. Jab to the body, not something that Whittaker typically threw. He usually keeps his hand low, and when you come in on him, he tries to intercept you with a jab to the head, but here, jab to the body. Right body kick, left high kick in close, and Whittaker shut Romero's eye in that round. But this is when things started to shift the other way. Romero caught Whittaker with the right hand that knocked Whittaker down in round 3. And when Whittaker got back up, Whittaker used his elbows to help him stay in the fight when he was pretty badly hurt. Whittaker nearly got knocked out after that, as he was still gathering his bearings from the right hand, but he stayed alive enough to the point where he could run away, and when they re-engaged, he darted in and caught Romero with a left uppercut into right high kick that landed flush, followed up with knee to the body and elbows, and they grappled for the remainder of the round. But that was certainly Romero's round, so I would have it 2-1 Whittaker. In round 4, Romero was looking to spin, so Whittaker landed a left high kick. So we really see Whittaker start to not only throw the right high kick, but the left high kick in this fight. It's an evolution in his game. Whittaker added the push kick to the leg and the left high kick. After a timeout, when Romero got hit in the cup, Whittaker landed like 4 jabs in a row and then a few more. Tons more side kicks to the leg. But the problem is Whittaker seemed to have broken his right hand. So Whittaker won basically the entire 4th round with just one-handed. And this was like part of where the legend of Bobby Knuckles grows, as he was able to show in these crazy fights against Romero his durability and his will to win, even as some of his weapons got taken away. And he was literally fighting with his power hand broken. But Romero landed another right hand and wobbled Whittaker. And then he landed another one. So you have to give Romero this round for the way he ended it. And Whittaker was moving in all sorts of different ways to try and figure out how to hit Romero with only his one hand at his disposal. And at one point he got caught in a sideways stance, and Romero clocked him with a left hook and knocked him down. And from there on, it was grappling with Romero in dominant positions for the rest of the fight. So I would have given those last 3 rounds to Romero, which one judge actually did, but the other 2 disagreed, and they gave the decision to Whittaker. So a very interesting and exciting fight, where Whittaker definitely deserved a ton of credit for the way he fought even one-handed. But still, I would say that Romero should have got the decision there. And I remember thinking that when I watched the fight years ago, and I remember thinking it when I rewatched the fight recently. When Whittaker fought against Adesanya, it was a very uncharacteristic performance for him. It was Whittaker after a lot of time off, where he had like a severe surgery, where he had to vacate the title. Right, he came back to fight Adesanya, and Whittaker was just rushing in a lot. He looked really quick. He looked really good in the sense that he was quick and speedy, and he was back to himself. But he wasn't setting the table with the jab like he typically did, and he didn't use the front side kick that he used a ton against Romero in his previous fight, which you'd think would have been a fantastic weapon against Izzy, who stands with a lot of distance because Izzy's so long and has such a large reach advantage, long arms, long legs. You'd think you maybe want to take away that bladed stance of Izzy, where he bends the knees a lot, doesn't stand straight up. He has kind of a wider stance. You'd think you'd want to use that kick to the lead leg of Izzy a lot. But he didn't really do that. He threw a lot of winging punches. He was running in and trying to get out. Adesanya went for 2 left high kicks that seemed to somewhat land. And at the end of the round, when Whittaker tried rushing in with the jab to right hand, Israel slid out left. And with Whittaker sideways, Adesanya landed a right hook that basically knocked Whittaker out at the buzzer. It was pretty similar to what Romero did to him in the 5th round of their fight, right, in the previous fight. It was where you can slide out and catch Whittaker with a hook. Whittaker caught Adesanya coming in with an intercepting jab in the 2nd round, and Adesanya landed another grazing head kick, a hook, and some body work. And Whittaker was trying to land the straight right, but the problem against Adesanya is that Adesanya was able to lean back on Whittaker's best weapons. He basically rendered Whittaker's right high kick useless because he could lean back, and the same thing for the right hand of Whittaker. So really a tough fight for the Reaper, for Bobby Knuckles. Israel, just a tough style matchup with the way he's able to take away Whittaker's best weapons. Whittaker went for the high kick 3 times and only landed it once in that 2nd round. And then in the ending sequence of the fight, Whittaker actually caught Adesanya coming in with the jab, but then Adesanya landed the right-hand counter again and followed up with punches for the win. So you have that loss. You have that first loss right there at 185 for Robert Whittaker. Granted, you could have said that he lost like one judge did against Romero, but this was his first official loss, and it was an uncharacteristic performance where he wasn't patiently using all of his weapons. Then he had a relatively uneventful fight against Darren Till, where he started slow and then picked it up as he went. And then he fought against Cannonier. And here, Whittaker added another wrinkle to his game, where he started throwing the calf kick, right? The calf kick became bigger in MMA over time, and Whittaker adopted it here. Whittaker got hit with a bunch of outside low kicks. And when Whittaker would throw the jab a few times, then he would switch to the straight right without a setup. But, of course, he always had his vintage jab, right high kick. Whittaker at one point went for a takedown and got it, but he wasn't able to hold on to it, but still, this was really one of the first times we've ever seen Whittaker shoot for a takedown. So you see, the pattern here is over time he continues to round out his game. Right? Originally, he threw more elbows. Then he was able to add a knee. He had the right high kick. He had the left uppercut, but he also had the right uppercut. Then he adds the push kick to the knee. Then he has the front kick. Then he adds the wrestling in. So he just really, throughout the course of his career, became a very, very well-rounded mixed martial artist with all the weapons in his arsenal. You'd be hard-pressed to come up with a fighter who had more weapons that you can, more damaging weapons than Robert Whittaker has. A delayed 1-2 landed for Whittaker against Cannonier. Whittaker hurt Cannonier real bad in round 3 with the 1-2 into the right high kick, with the high kick landing perfectly in time. Like typically you'd throw 1-2-3, right? You'd throw jab, right hand, left hook. And this right high kick landed in exactly the same exact timing. It was so quick, where it was jab, right hand, right head kick, 1-2-3. In the 3-punch combo with the foot supplanting the last punch. Cannonier was basically done, and he face-planted trying to run away. So Whittaker got to his back until there was about a minute left, and they stood up. Cannonier landed a right hand and stung Whittaker, but Cormier and the crew overreacted badly. Whittaker wasn't really badly hurt from the shot, although it was a shot that did land, and the fight ended with Whittaker easily winning. Another thing that you realize, if you watch back a lot of older fights, and then you watch them, like if you watch someone's whole career back in a day, you notice how much better the old commentators were than the modern day commentators. Like Jimmy Smith, Kenny Florian were a lot better than today, where you have Cormier making a fool of himself, you have Bisping making a fool of himself routinely. The commentary is really taking a massive step down. But getting back to the fights, you have Whittaker going against Gastelum, where Whittaker landed the jab to right head kick in round one. And Whittaker in this fight was able to get double underhooks whenever Gastelum came in for a clinch. So he had that double underhook position, and he was able to just take Gastelum down. That took up most of the remainder of the first round. In round two, Kelvin went for a single leg, and Whittaker landed a short right hook. Whittaker checked a kick that hurt Gastelum. Gastelum is just coming in with all the looping shots, and it helped Gastelum that they were in the smaller cage, because with more space, Whittaker could have done an even better job. But Whittaker still, he mainly used the jab, but landed a nice counter right in round three, uppercuts in round four, single leg takedown in round five to ice it. So just the continuing trend of Bobby Knuckles rounding out his MMA game, adding more takedowns, adding more weapons over time. And this earned Whittaker the right to rematch Adesanya. But like we discussed before, Whittaker against Adesanya is a tough matchup because Adesanya really has all the tools to beat Whittaker in terms of him taking away Whittaker's best weapons with the high kick and the right hand. So Whittaker has a great intercepting jab, but the problem is Adesanya doesn't really come at you that much in that way. When Adesanya did try to pursue Whittaker and really dart in, Whittaker was able to catch him with the intercepting jab. But that's not typically how Adesanya fights. So it's just not conducive for Bobby Knuckles to win against Israel. So it was basically, in round one, it was a calf kick battle until Israel landed a straight left hand from southpaw, which seated Whittaker down, but it didn't hurt him too badly. It wasn't like when Israel had landed the hook on Whittaker in the past. Whittaker tried for a takedown, which didn't work, and he clearly lost round one. Another problem for Whittaker is the reach difference. Reach difference where it contributes to the same thing we were saying the entire time. Where with the added reach, Israel leans back very casually on Whittaker's right hand and right high kick. So if Whittaker can't land those punches and those kicks, then he's basically stuck jabbing and hooking. Whittaker actually secured a takedown then, but Israel shown that he was able to get up pretty quickly. And this is really the case for most of Whittaker's opponents. Whittaker doesn't hold very many opponents down for long. Now, it has to do with he's shorter for the division. So, yeah, Israel is able to use his size to get up. And same thing with Romero. Same thing with Cannonier, for the most part. Same thing with all of the guys Whittaker fought. Whittaker landed a strong jab, and that closed round two. Whittaker caught Adesanya coming in with a jab in round three, and they both landed jabs. Whittaker failed a takedown. Israel landed a head kick, but then Whittaker took him down off it. So that was actually a great break for Bobby Knuckles, and he got to Israel's back. Jab and double jab were Whittaker's best weapons in that round, and although Israel landed a hard leg kick, Whittaker still took round three. Whittaker finally, for the first time in like 6 rounds of trying to land the leaping left hook on Israel, he finally landed it in round 4 of their rematch. Israel landed another hard outside leg kick, and Whittaker caught Israel with another left hook. So what you saw is finally, with Whittaker relaxing a little bit more and not rushing in like he did in the first fight, he started to get the timing of Israel. He was relaxed. And this was where, in the final 3 rounds of the fight against Israel, you started to see the typical Reaper. You started to see Bobby Knuckles in his usual fight style, where he was relaxed and he wasn't doing too much. Whittaker then finally landed his left-hand uppercut, one of his best weapons, in close against Adesanya. And as Whittaker got the timing of Adesanya, suddenly Whittaker started becoming very elusive, and Adesanya couldn't connect. Whittaker was getting it done with the jab, double jab, and Adesanya was trying to land that hook because he landed it in the first fight. But this time Whittaker wasn't there for it. He had the timing, and Adesanya was striking at air. Whittaker timed the clinch and got in with the knee to the body and pressed Israel against the cage, and Whittaker clearly won round 4. This was the worst fight ever called by Bisping, saying that Israel had won every single round. This was really just a complete embarrassment. What a joke. If anyone ever rewatches this Adesanya, Adesanya versus Whittaker 2, just take a moment and laugh at the narrative that Bisping built up in his head. Whittaker continued with the jab, and Israel actually landed a body kick, which we hadn't seen much of, and then Whittaker landed a hard jab. Israel went with an outside leg kick, so Whittaker threatened the single leg, and then Whittaker landed a right hand, and Israel poked him in the eye. Whittaker got a single leg to the double and took Israel down for a second, but of course Israel got up against the cage for about 30 seconds, and then Whittaker caught him on the break with a hard left hook. Whittaker slipped the jab into a takedown entry and pushed Israel against the cage for the duration, and then Whittaker won his third consecutive round, and in my book, Whittaker won the fight by taking the last 3 rounds. If you look at the judges' decision, 2 of the judges scored the fight the same way, where they gave Israel the first 3 rounds and they gave Whittaker the last 2. One judge gave Whittaker only round 2 and the other 4 rounds to Israel, which was just completely laughable. That was Mike Beltran. Right, you can't say that the last two rounds were definitely for Whittaker. The question in my mind was round 3, which I gave to Whittaker, but round 2 was a very close round as well. So Whittaker certainly won the last 2, and the first 2 judges agreed with that. And round 2 was close, which the third judge, Mike Beltran, gave to Whittaker, but somehow he didn't give him any of the other rounds. But it certainly shows that Whittaker might have won the fight, because if Whittaker for sure won the last 2 rounds, and one judge gave Whittaker round 2, and also round 3 was close, you could find many ways to give this fight to Bobby Knuckles, and where I actually think that Whittaker won this fight, and Whittaker lost the fight against Romero 2. But nonetheless, we move forward, and then he fought against Vettori. Whittaker brought back his right uppercut and right high kick in this fight, along with the straight right hand. He scored the double leg, and the whole fight, the entire fight, Vettori could not avoid the right high kick. This brings up Bobby Knuckles' most recent matchup. Bobby Knuckles against Dricus du Plessis. And there's a lot of talk about this fight where a lot of guys are saying, a lot of media, that something looked wrong with Robert Whittaker in this fight. Totally not true. Completely not true at all. Du Plessis started the fight extremely twitchy and fidgety. Whittaker showed the right high kick, and he used the side kick to the leg early on. He darted in with the left hook, outside leg kick. Du Plessis was zigzagging in weird angles. Whittaker tried his intercepting jab, but then actually he hit Du Plessis in round 1 with a right hand and followed it up with a jab. What Du Plessis was bringing to the table was constant stance switching. Whittaker got him again with a hard intercepting jab, and Whittaker hit him with the leaping left hook, jab, and right hand, and Du Plessis couldn't land anything. Whittaker checked a kick, used a side kick to Du Plessis' leg, sent that, so this was a pretty cool sequence where Whittaker checked a kick, and then he push-kicked Du Plessis' lead leg, which was Du Plessis' right leg. He was standing right foot forward, but that sent the right leg to the back, and then Whittaker grabbed the new front foot of Du Plessis. So Whittaker pushed one foot to the back, grabbed the other foot, and then transitioned, put a hand around the waist and into a double leg, and took Du Plessis down. But the same thing like Adesanya, Whittaker can't hold anybody down at 185. Du Plessis finally landed a jab, and then when Whittaker kicked, Du Plessis caught the leg for a sec, jabbed Whittaker hard, which was possible because he fights from both stances. So he was able to land that jab. Whittaker got an uppercut in close, Du Plessis tried with a knee, and Whittaker fired a right overhand. When they clashed together, Du Plessis did an awesome back leg trip into side control and started using elbows. He threatened a submission, but the ground and pound was effective, and he cut Whittaker. So there's a good case for Du Plessis stealing the round at the end. Really, Whittaker didn't look any different in the Du Plessis fight than he did in all of his previous fights. He looked really good. For almost the entire round, Robert Whittaker was landing all of his usual weapons against Du Plessis. He looked good, he looked fast, he looked like his usual self. What Du Plessis brought to the table that was different was the stance switching and the ability to jab out of both stances, which put Whittaker in some weird positions, and therefore he was able to land. Also, where nobody was really able to out-wrestle Whittaker previously, du Plessis didn't try wrestling him. He threw an unusual trip. So they got in close for a second, and like in the fight where Whittaker fought against Gastelum, Whittaker was able to get his arms underneath and get the double underhooks against Gastelum. So he took him down there. But here, when Whittaker grabbed onto du Plessis had a really nifty trip. And once he was on the ground, du Plessis took him straight into side control and was in a dominant position and was able to slice and dice him. In round 2, Whittaker landed the right high kick, intercepting jab, right hand. But then, here's where it all went bad for Whittaker. Du Plessis caught him coming in with the jab, and it just, for some reason, it just took away Whittaker's equilibrium. It didn't seem like there was anything especially crazy about du Plessis' jab. It wasn't like du Plessis caught him with a hard right hand, hard left hand, hard hook. It wasn't what Adesanya did to him. It was just a jab, and it totally took away Whittaker's equilibrium. With Whittaker on the retreat, du Plessis just landed the entire kitchen sink on him, including a hard right uppercut to the head, and then body, and hard left hook, putting Whittaker away. So that's basically the career of Robert Whittaker in 20 minutes, 25 minutes. You have an idea for Whittaker being able to use all of his weapons, the uppercuts, right high kick, jab, intercepting jab, right hand, push kick to the leg, calf kick, wrestling. Now let's turn the tables a little bit and let's look at his opponent, Paulo Costa. Costa won, almost all of his regional fights with knockout. Yeah, he had one submission, but almost all TKO KO. No secret to what Costa is trying to do. In Costa's first UFC fight, he showed hard body kick and hard hooks. In his second fight, he fought a guy named Bamboje, hard name to say. And this guy was really quick, and he was a runner, so he was like always moving. And the quicker fighter was able to land a hard right hand on Costa. He leg kicked Costa. He went in for the single leg. He took Costa down with the double leg. Costa got up and got kicked in the head, then took an inside leg kick. So you see Costa able to get hit very early on in his UFC career. He got taken down again, but got back up, took a spinning back kick, inside leg kick, body punches, and then Costa started using a weapon that Robert Whittaker knows very well, and that's Costa's bread and butter, his super powerful right leg. And he just hunted Bamboje with the hard right kick to the body and legs. With Bamboje against the cage, Costa threw hard body shots and knees, hard elbows in close. And one of the big mistakes against Costa, which Bamboje did in this fight, was he was constantly circling to his left. So think of Paulo Costa. He's right-handed. He always fights orthodox. And he has that powerful rear leg in the back. And Bamboje was running right towards it. And Costa just punished him with it. A theme in Costa's career. Bamboje took Costa down against the cage and survived round 1, but in round 2, Costa showed that he can cover up very well in close. He can cover up so that he doesn't take too much damage. Something important for a guy who needs to conserve energy at times. While he's diminishing his opponent's energy, right? If you're throwing a bunch at Costa and Costa's able to cover up and then come back eventually, that's great for Costa. So a good part of his skill set. Bamboje slipped, which put him on his back, and then Costa just ended him with a few seconds of ground and pound. So you're starting to get a feel, after 2 UFC fights, for the skill set of Costa. Then Costa fought an undersized Johnny Hendricks. And Costa used that right foot to the head, body, and legs, showed the straight right hand. He also tried sort of a front kick, which would be a development of Costa's career. Costa showed the jab, right hand, feints, also feints with kicking. Hendricks went for a takedown and got kneed. Costa showed a spinning heel kick, which is kind of surprising for a guy his size, but he does have that in the arsenal. He's yet to land it in a super meaningful way, but he lands really, really good uppercuts. Costa has phenomenal uppercuts in close to the head and to the body. Costa uses the straight right hand when Hendricks was cornered. Good left uppercut to the body, straight right hand combination, knees against the cage. But the right kick was money. But what Costa also showed in this fight is a left kick. Hendricks did catch Costa with the straight left hand for one good shot in the round. Costa jabbed to the body. Hendricks hit Costa with two solid left hands in a row. Costa threw the spinning heel kick again and ended the round with a hard body kick, which is his best weapon. In round 2, Costa landed everything, including the right hand, short left hook, big uppercuts to the body to end it. And Costa also showed the straight right to the chest, which was easier to land on Hendricks. So another thing that we can learn about the career of Paulo Costa is his right hand isn't always super accurate. He has a good right hand, but it's more effective when he throws it to the chest, and then he pins you down, and then he's able to set up his really strong uppercuts to the body. And that was what he did against his next opponent. Uriah Hall was a very quick fighter, and he switched stances a lot. But the problem for him was when he went southpaw, he just became a glutton for the body kick, and he ate it. A large part of the beginning of this fight was where Costa and Uriah Hall were kind of holding hands like they were playing Mercy, and it was a little battle of who could sneak in an elbow or get in something on the break. But it was a really bizarre kind of opening sequence for them. Costa was also kind of using the left kick to try and break those weird clinches up and trying to wing the right hand over the top. Hall was able to land a spinning back kick, right? He had a really quick spinning back kick, but not really going to do too much with that against a guy as durable as Paulo Costa. And what Hall did well was that he was circling to his right. So he was going away from Costa's power hand and Costa's power leg. Hall mistakenly, his real big blunder in this fight was that he mistakenly backed up against the cage, and Costa is so good when he has you trapped. Super dangerous when he corners you, and he just killed Uriah Hall in the tie clinch against the cage with hard uppercuts and hooks to the head, where he would hold the head with one hand kind of in like a wrestling type of pose, and then he would just crush him with hooks and uppercuts. Big left uppercut, one of Costa's best punches. Hall did catch Costa by surprise with a double leg takedown, but he couldn't hold him there. And Hall also caught Costa with something coming in at one point, but Costa's just real durable. Costa landed a hard uppercut to the body, which opened up the left hook to the head, and then the right hand, which put Uriah Hall down for good. So another theme of Paulo Costa's career, he's very good when he has you cornered. Very good when he has you against the fence and you can't move. Then he fought a 3-round war against Yoel Romero. So another fighter who both Whittaker fought 2 times and Costa also fought against him. Romero fighting southpaw, he gets in a lot of weird positions because Romero switches back and forth considering he's mostly a wrestler with just crazy winging punches. So Romero fighting southpaw, he used his left high kick against Costa. Costa caught Romero with a left hook, and then Romero caught Costa mid-exchange with a right hook, and they both knocked each other down. Romero was using the teep, so that's something that Costa is susceptible to, which is interesting if you bear in mind this fight against Robert Whittaker. And where this fight was super interesting, was that all of Costa's previous opponents got killed when Costa had them against the cage. But Romero is such a weird fighter, and Romero holds so much power that Romero was doing what would be probably the most ill-advised thing, which is waiting against the cage to play rope-a-dope against and try to counter Costa. But for Romero, he was able to do that. Romero partially landed a flying knee, which I don't think anybody's ever going to attempt on Costa again. Romero is one of one in this regard. Certainly, I don't see that coming from Robert Whittaker. And Costa then cracked Romero while he was shooting, and Costa ripped Romero to the body on the fence. Costa again showed his spinning heel kick, and landed a right overhand at the bell. Costa was a far more active fighter against Romero in round 2. Romero threw maybe like one uppercut the entire round, but it is something that Costa's susceptible to, getting hit with the uppercut. So for 2 rounds, Costa threw a lot more, and in the 3rd round, Romero threw a lot more. Costa was successful when he fired the right hand to the chest of Romero like he did against Hendricks. Costa initiated a takedown, and Romero ended up taking him down, but Costa got position in the scramble, and Costa actually threw a spinning back fist in this fight that missed. I think that was the only time he threw a spinning back fist in his entire UFC career. But I guess you got to document it. It's something that I guess if you threw it once, you could potentially throw it again. Israel then fought Paulo Costa in Costa's, worst performance of his career. Israel just brutalized Costa's lead leg. Brutalized it. Costa had the hard left body kick, which Costa improved on. Typically, Costa used the right leg, right? Robert Whittaker did the same. Robert Whittaker uses the right leg. Costa uses the right leg. But now Costa also added the left leg, which is Costa's lead leg, but it's the leg that Israel was just killing. And Costa does not check a single kick. He ate a head kick from Adesanya, and Costa just couldn't stalk Adesanya like he did with all of his previous opponents. And bear in mind, Costa's undefeated at this point. Izzy slid out and landed a left hook when Costa tried to get in close, and he ended it with ground and pound. Right? That was how Izzy was able to end the fight against Paulo Costa. He was very movable. He was very, very quick, able to move around, and he caught Costa with that sliding left hook. Costa had 2 more fights, but he fought Vettori, who was a southpaw. So, this was another not great fight for Costa, where Costa got a point deducted. It was a pretty even fight the entire way, with some rounds going each way. I think Vettori would still get the decision even without the point deduction, but it was also where you started to see Costa not take his career as seriously. This fight was called for at a catch weight, and I think it was due to Costa not being able to really make weight. And Costa's cardio wasn't as good. I think if Costa comes into a fight against Vettori with really, really good cardio, he could beat Vettori. And then Costa fought 1 more time in a fight against Luke Rockhold. Costa looked better again in this fight. He looked like his slimmer self, but he did struggle a little bit in the cardio area again. He basically broke Rockhold's nose 5 seconds into the fight. And he showboated a lot. There was one point where Costa showboated and Rockhold spammed him with 4 straight body kicks. And for some reason in this fight, Costa maybe was fighting down to the way Rockhold was looking, and he barely threw the right high kick, which is one of Costa's best weapons. It's hard to tell if Costa was just really tired, because this wasn't what he looked like in the Romero fight. This wasn't what he looked like earlier in his career against Uriah Hall. But maybe he was just taking it easy on Luke Rockhold. It's hard to know. In round 3, Costa threw a stupid spinning kick and ended up on his back. Rockhold got exhausted, shot for a takedown at one point, ended up in bottom position, eventually reversed it, and then wiped his blood on Costa like a rabid dog in one of the most hilarious moments of any fight that I've ever seen. So we've just looked at the entire careers of both of them. So what's going to happen in the fight? There's a lot working against Paulo Costa in this fight. There's really a lot. First of all, Costa hasn't looked as good as he used to in his last few fights. So we're kind of hoping for a resurgence of Costa if we're hoping for the best fight that we can possibly get here. Costa is also much better against southpaws than he is against orthodox fighters, because Costa's best weapon is his right foot, which he mainly throws at southpaws. But Bobby Knuckles has a great right high kick too, which he throws at southpaws and at orthodox fighters. So he's really taken away one of Paulo Costa's best weapons, right? It was his best weapon against Hendricks, his best weapon against Hall. It was his best weapon against Vettori. But Robert Whittaker is going to fight orthodox the entire time. You also have that Robert Whittaker has so many weapons, including his natural ability, which is the speed. And it's going to be very hard for Costa, where let's assume that Costa's at full strength. Let's assume he's at the peak of his career right now, which we're not sure about. It's going to be hard for Costa to trap Bobby Knuckles against the cage. And that's where Costa does a lot of his best work. So Costa's going to try to play games with Robert Whittaker. He's going to try to get him to be more of a stationary target. He's going to try to land the hard body kick, the hard head kick. But Whittaker can fight fire with fire in that regard, and he can really land that on Costa. Whittaker has the faster jab. Whittaker has a good hook. Whittaker can come in with his shovel uppercut, which is one of Vettori's best weapons as well. But I think that Bobby Knuckles can take a massive page out of the Adesanya playbook here and just destroy the lead leg of Paulo Costa. Destroy it. This is a fight where Whittaker has got to bring back the push kick to the knee that he used in the second fight against Romero. And if he uses that, plus his teep kick, he can always create distance. And if Whittaker has distance, he can catch Costa coming in with his intercepting jab, and he can use all of his speed and quickness, and Costa won't be able to pin him down. Costa has also looked worse in his wrestling. He's looked worse in his jiu-jitsu, right? He got reversed by Rockhold. He got taken down by Vettori, and he was held down more than I thought he would, more than people were able to do previously. So there's just a lot working in the favor of Bobby Knuckles, and I don't think that Robert Whittaker lost anything in the Duplessis fight. Robert Whittaker, I don't think he was weird in that fight. Just for some reason, he got hit with a shot that took away his equilibrium, and Duplessis presented issues that Costa doesn't present. Costa doesn't switch stances like Duplessis. Costa doesn't have unique trips like Duplessis. So I think Robert Whittaker has all the tools to win this fight, and I think he will. This is the Straight Up Fight Network.